people, but not others. There are a lot of economic questions that deserve serious consideration. But of course, there are political aspects. The students and others who've taken part in these movements have been concerned not only with the pros and cons of this agreement, but they're concerned, as you know, with what are the political implications of this agreement. Until now, Taiwan has managed 21 cross-strait agreements in the last 6 years of Ma's administration. This is a remarkable feat. After all, when Ma came in, the Chinese position was, we will not negotiate agreements with Taiwan on an equal footing. Taiwan is a mere province of China. The ROC is an illegitimate regime. So we can't have equal negotiations. 6 years later, what we witness is there have been equal negotiations through imaginative, you might say fictitious, resort to so-called semi-official or unofficial organizations. But the result is truly impressive. And it has eased security problems in East Asia. I angered many of my former students from Taiwan a year and a half ago when, as Ma began his second term, Taiwan media asked me, what do you think his prospects are? And I thought he's going to have a hard time making any further cross-strait agreements, because you could see resistance building up in Taiwan. And I said, if Ma can continue to make cross-strait agreements, despite the difficulties and without prejudicing the security of Taiwan, he ought to be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, that so angered some of my dear friends and former students who just hate Ma that I think it's affected my relationships with them to some extent. I think that's a no-brainer. It's so obvious. Maybe it reflects how low the standards are for the Nobel Peace Prize. But after all, Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize. And everything he's done since would make people doubt whether he deserves it. But Ma, without the world paying attention, has done many remarkable things, but creating increasing understandable anxiety in the people in Taiwan. And this economic agreement, coming as it did, as it's being reviewed or should have been reviewed by the legislative yuan, has really hit a sore point. We have seen developing in Taiwan for some years the need to have greater legislative participation in cross-strait agreements. I think in 2010, Ms. Yingjeou and I did an op-ed for the Zhonghua Shibao and the mainland Hong Kong South China Morning Post, where we pointed out Ma was not taking the legislature sufficiently into his process of negotiating these regimes. Now that's not unusual. In America, the president wants Congress to keep its hands off trade agreements. That's why we always try to have so-called fast-track approval, which limits the opportunity of congressmen to pick apart what the executive branch has negotiated. So this is a common problem, but in Taiwan, of course, it's especially sensitive because these aren't merely economic problems. These are political problems, and they involve the security of Taiwan.